I'm Pearl. The memory of that fateful night still haunts me. It was my mother's 65th birthday party, a grand affair in the backyard she'd always loved. The place was lit up with string lights, and there were around 45 guests chatting and laughing. I wasn't there, though. Instead, I was at home with my 5-year-old daughter, Lily, watching a movie. But I knew exactly what was about to unfold. My grandfather, Henry, called me from the party. His voice was steady as he described the scene. "The yard is full, Pearl. Your mother is holding court, acting like nothing's wrong. But I can feel the tension." I listened intently, imagining the sight: the rented tent, the folding chairs filled with guests, and the dark, empty casita at the back. Then, at 7:48, he said, "Here comes the county." You can feel the mood change. A sheriff's deputy in a crisp uniform walked up the driveway, past the rows of cars. The chatter among the guests died down, replaced by an eerie silence. The deputy approached my mother, who was still wearing that fake hostess smile. "Mrs. Eleanor Reed?" the deputy asked. My mother nodded, her smile faltering slightly. "This is for you," the deputy said, handing her an envelope. There was no commotion, no shouting, just the heavy silence of realization. My mother opened the envelope in front of everyone. The first page was the illegal lockout complaint, with my name against hers, and the timestamp of the day she'd changed the locks printed clearly. The second was the formal demand on the deed of trust for the $28,500 I'd loaned her 2 years ago to save the house from foreclosure. The third was the violation notice for the unlicensed short-term rental she'd set up. As she read through the papers, the color drained from her face. My Aunt Sarah leaned in to see and gasped, "Eleanor, is this the loan? Did Pearl save the house?" That question echoed through the yard, shattering the pretense my mother had so carefully built. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother, on speaker, her voice trembling with rage and disbelief. "How could you do this to me, Pearl? In front of everyone?" I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm. "This isn't about making a scene, Mom. It's about right and wrong. You changed the locks on me and Lily while I was away on a work trip. You turned the casita into a rental without following the rules. And you forgot that I'm the one who saved this house." My brother Ethan, who was probably standing right next to her, chimed in angrily, "You can't take our house." I almost chuckled. "I'm not taking it, Ethan. I'm the reason you still have a roof over your head." Behind them, I could hear the muffled whispers of the guests, listening intently to every word. I continued firmly, "Mom, I'm informing you of what's happening. This has been a long time coming." And with that, I hung up the phone. To understand how I got to this point, you need to go back a few years. After my divorce, I moved back to Denver with Lily, looking for stability. I'm a forensic accountant, a certified fraud examiner. I'm good at spotting the hidden money trails that others miss. It's a skill that has served me well in my job, but I never thought I'd have to use it against my own family. My mother, Eleanor, was a woman who always put on a good show. She was well liked in the neighborhood, the type who organized church events and hosted fancy parties. She offered me a room in our old family home for $1,300 a month. "Why pay strangers when you can help family?" she said. It seemed like a good deal at the time, so I agreed. For 3.5 years, I paid that rent religiously, putting $1,300 into her account every first of the month. There was no lease, just a handshake and a shared family bond that I thought was unbreakable. I also took on the responsibility of keeping an eye on the household bills. I was the one who knew which due dates were coming up and which bills needed immediate attention. My brother Ethan, on the other hand, lived in another state. He had his share of problems. His business had failed, and his marriage had fallen apart. According to my mother, he was rebuilding himself, so he contributed nothing to the family finances. In March, my mother announced her 65th birthday party with great fanfare. It was going to be a huge event, with a rented tent in the backyard and guests from the church and the neighborhood. She handed me the responsibility of organizing the party, finding the caterer, arranging the chairs, and creating the playlist. "You're so good at this kind of thing, Pearl," she said. Then, she casually mentioned that Ethan was moving back home. I asked the obvious question, "Where will he sleep?" She waved it off, saying, "We'll figure it out. You're the strong one, Pearl. You don't need this house." Her words stung, but I let it go, thinking we'd find a reasonable solution. 2 days later, I noticed a white van parked in the driveway. There was lettering on the door that read Mountain Lock and Key. A man was on a ladder at the front entrance. I asked my mother about it as I was leaving for a 4-day work audit. She barely looked up from her phone and said, "The back gate's been stuck. He's just fixing the gate." I knew the front door wasn't the back gate, but I had a flight to catch. I kissed Lily goodbye, told my mother I'd be back on Friday, and left. Little did I know that the locksmith wasn't working on the gate at all. When I returned home on Friday morning, I was greeted with a nightmare. My clothes were spread out on the front concrete, baking in the hot sun. Lily's favorite light-up sneakers were melting in the 115 degrees heat. I tried to open the door with my code, but the keypad gave me 3 loud red beeps. I tried again, but it was no use. The lock was brand new, shiny, and menacing. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother, "Your room is your brother's now. Come get your stuff from the lawn. Don't make a scene." I read the text twice, the heat from the driveway seeping through my shoes. But instead of feeling angry or sad, I felt a cold, calm determination. I took out my phone and started taking pictures of the lock, the sneakers, the timestamp on the text. This was the beginning of my case. My first call was to Lily. She was having a sleepover at her friend Emily's house, just a few streets away. I told her in a cheerful voice, "This baby, Mommy has a fun surprise. You get to stay at Emily's one more night." She cheered, not knowing the turmoil I was going through. Then, I started loading Lily's things into the car first, her sneakers, her booster seat, and her beloved stuffed bunny. Across the street, our neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, came out in her robe, coffee in hand. "Pearl, honey, is everything okay?" she asked. I told her the truth. My mother changed the locks while I was at work. Mrs. Jenkins's mouth tightened. "I saw the locksmith here on Tuesday," she said. "And I saw your mother out here early this morning. I asked if I could have her number in case I needed a witness. She gave it to me without hesitation, and I knew she understood what had happened." That night, I checked into a motel near the highway. I sat down with a legal pad and did what I do best, I added up the numbers. 3.5 years of rent at $1,300 a month came to $54,600. I had no lease, but I had a clear bank record of every payment. My savings were low after supporting both my household and paying rent, but I knew I had to fight. I also thought about the 2-year-old secret that my mother had forgotten. 2 years ago, she'd called me at midnight, sobbing. The mortgage was 5 months behind, and the bank was threatening to foreclose on the house. I had $28,500 saved for a down payment on my own place, but I didn't hesitate. I wired the money the next morning to stop the foreclosure. But being a forensic accountant, I made sure to do it properly. I wrote a promissory note for the $28,500, secured by a deed of trust against the house. I had it notarized at a local store on a Sunday, and Henry, my grandfather, signed as a witness. Then, I recorded it with the county recorder. To my mother, it was just paperwork to save her face. To me, it was a security blanket, a reminder of my investment in the family home. The next day, I called my mother. I calmly explained that changing the locks on a paying tenant was illegal in Colorado. She scoffed and said, "You're not a tenant. You're my daughter." I reminded her of the rent I'd paid over the years and demanded our things back. She brushed me off, saying Ethan needed the room and that I was being dramatic. A few minutes later, I received a text from Ethan. It was a photo of my old bedroom, now transformed into a sleek office with a new desk and a large monitor. "No hard feelings, sis," he wrote. "The office is going to be great." I didn't reply. I knew that arguing with them wouldn't solve anything. I decided to take legal action. I confided in my coworker, Maya, who was also a good friend. She offered me a guest room in her house, saying, "You and Lily need a place to stay. Don't worry about it." That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya poured us 2 glasses of wine. "You can handle corporate fraud like a pro, Pearl. Unwind this family mess," she said. I told her it felt different when it was my mother. She nodded and said, "That's why they think they can get away with it. But you need to fight back." Maya knew a housing attorney named Rachel at a local legal aid clinic. The next morning, I called Rachel and booked an appointment. I started gathering all the evidence I could find: the photos, the texts, the bank records, and the promissory note. Before my appointment, I did some research. I found out that my mother had listed the casita on a short-term rental website. She was taking bookings without a license, breaking both the city's regulations and the HOA's covenants. I printed out the listing, the regulations, and the covenants and added them to my folder of evidence. When I met with Rachel, I laid out everything on her desk. She listened patiently, nodding as I spoke. When I got to the part about the lock change, she stopped writing. "In Colorado, a landlord can't do that. It's a self-help eviction, and it's illegal, even if she's your mother. You're entitled to damages and your legal fees," she said. I then took out the cream-colored legal envelope containing the promissory note. Rachel opened it and read through the pages carefully. She looked up at me with a serious expression. "Pearl, do you think your mother understands what she signed?" I shook my head. I don't think she ever read it. She just signed where I told her to. Rachel began to build a plan. First, we'd sue for the illegal lockout in the county court for actual damages or 3 months' rent, whichever was greater, plus my legal fees. Second, we'd send a formal demand on the deed of trust. The lien had been on the title for 2 years, and it would prevent my mother from refinancing or selling the house without clearing my claim. Third, we'd file complaints about the unlicensed short-term rental with the city and the HOA, which would shut it down and result in fines. I also managed to get a record of the lock change. I called Mountain Lock and Key, gave them the address, and asked for an invoice. The technician had logged the job, and the keypad's timestamp showed that the code was reset at 3:15 p.m. on the day I left for the audit. It was a clear record of my mother's actions. As the days passed, the plan started to unfold. The county court docketed the lockout case, and the sheriff's office prepared to serve the papers on my mother. The city opened a code enforcement case on the short-term rental, and the HOA sent a cease and desist notice. On Thursday, the day before the birthday party, my mother started to realize that something was wrong. Ethan needed money for his new business venture, and she tried to refinance the house. But the title company found the lien on the property, and the refinance fell through. She called me, the desperation in her voice obvious. "What did you do to my house?" she cried. I simply replied, "I recorded what you signed 2 years ago. You're the one who's in trouble now." I made the decision to serve the papers on the day of her birthday party. It wasn't about revenge, it was about making her face the consequences of her actions. I knew it would be a public moment, but I wanted everyone to know the truth. After the phone call from the party, I held Lily a little tighter. I knew that this was the end of an era for our family, but it was also the beginning of a new chapter for me and Lily. In the end, the county court found the lockout illegal and awarded me damages and my legal fees. My mother was forced to start a repayment plan for the $28,500 she owed me. The short-term rental was shut down for good, and Ethan moved out within a month. Now, Lily and I have our own small apartment near the park. I installed a keypad lock on the door myself. The first time I set the code and heard the 3 soft green beeps, it was like a welcome home. Lily learned the code right away and said, "It's our door, Mommy." My mother called me once after it was all over. She didn't apologize, but she said, "I didn't think you'd actually do it." I replied, "That was always the problem, Mom. You never thought I'd stand up for myself." We don't talk much these days, but I'm at peace with that. I learned that being the strong one doesn't mean silently accepting unfair treatment. It means having the courage to fight for what's right, even when it's against your own family. If someone in your life keeps taking advantage of your kindness, take this as a sign to stand up for yourself. Read the terms carefully and don't be afraid to enforce them. Drop a comment if this story resonated with you, and be sure to subscribe for more.